So here we are once again. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm Mobile Geezer. You're probably on my channel on YouTube, but we're also broadcasting simultaneously on Facebook on my Mobile Geezer ID and on my George Hayes ID, so you can follow along on any of the three. Glad to have you here. If you're new here, we do this every Friday night. At this time, we talk about some of the tech stories from last Friday to this Friday, and I try to cover some articles of what I think might be important during the week, or what I think are some interesting tech stories that you may not have seen. So if you're new, please type something in the comments so I'll know you're there, and let us know where you're from. And Brian was in here a while ago, over an hour ago, and there's Eleanor. Now Eleanor's in it. She's saying hi to everybody. So those are the two that I know are here so far. And Will said he's going to try to get on the stream again this week, which would be great because he has a new phone and that he can talk about. He sent back, I don't know if I told you, if we talked about last week, he sent back his iPhone 15 Pro Max. He said it was just too big for him. That's right. He hadn't done that when we were broadcasting last week. And he was enjoying it, just like mine. But it was just too big for him. And I kind of thought it might be big for him because Will does not like big phones, even though this was just a touch smaller than the 14 Pro Max. But he still has a new phone that he got today. So hopefully he'll get on and talk about it with us. So meanwhile, I put the show notes every Friday on my website so you can follow along. So I will share screen and let you see that. So every week, this is where you find the stories. If you go to mobilegeezer.wordpress.com, you click on today's date, and you'll get just tonight's show notes. And while we're here, I always give you a preview of what we're going to talk about tonight. Usually I have 6, occasionally 7. Last week I had 7 articles. This week I only have 5 because these articles are all kind of beefy. There's a lot to be said in all of them. So I thought that would be enough. The first one I picked out, which is interesting, and another reason why I thought Will might like it. Will has always complained that Google has this habit of giving away everything and not keeping anything specifically for Google phones. So Jerry Hildebrand from Android Central has written an article talking about how the way I titled it, the Pixel 8 series machine learning and artificial and the AI mark a clear divide between Pixel devices and the rest of Android. So we're going to talk about that. And it sounds to me like Jerry thinks that Google just may keep some stuff just for Pixel devices. So we'll talk about that. That's a pretty good size article. Then we're going to talk about the latest, I said the affordable Motorola Razr 2023 revealed. That was just revealed, I think it was yesterday. So I have the Motorola Razr Plus, and you can see the big difference here is the outside screen. Outside screen on the Plus is 3.6 inches. This one, 1.5 inches, I believe. So we'll talk about that. And it's a lot cheaper. It's $300 cheaper. Then the big announcement from this week was the OnePlus Open. I said foldable. I think most people know it's a foldable, but anyway, OnePlus Open is here. Now that's going to be on The Verge, and that's a pretty good size article too. After that, this I found interesting. Mashable had this article. I said influencers are not welcome. Well, turns out there are restaurants and towns kind of all around the world where they're just a little sick of influencers and their tripods and people coming in. So, pretty interesting article. So, we'll go over that. And last but not least, I just thought this was another good Android Central article. I just said no more first-gen products thanks to the Pixel Watch 2. And the guy who wrote it is saying because of the Pixel Watch 2, it showed him he doesn't want to buy any more first-gen products. So those are going to be the ones we're going to go over. Let me stop screen for a minute. Let's see. Oh, and Brian's asking what, I guess he's asking what Will got. Will got the Pixel 8 Pro. I believe it's the Pixel 8 Pro. I'm pretty sure that's what he told me last week. We didn't talk about it today, but I was very honored. He got it this afternoon. He said he was going to get it for another week or two. But I guess I was the very first person that he texted, so I was very honored. So I'm hoping he does have time to come in here. And I remember last week, he was just about to come in, and they called him into work because they needed him at work. So I'm hoping that's not what happens today. But if he comes in, I will certainly let you guys know. And, of course, Ted has been skipping out on us lately also, so I'm always hoping he'll pop in. So, anyway, those are the stories we're going to go over tonight. And, all right, nothing else new in the comments. So, I'm going to go back to sharing screen, and we'll get on with the first story. Okay. So, like I said the Pixel 8 series machine learning and artificial intelligence mark a clear divide between Pixel devices and the rest of Android. So, this is on Android Central. And, of course, this is written by Jerry Hildenbrand, who I think almost all of us who listen to their podcast, it's mainly because of Jerry. Jerry has been with Android Central much longer than anybody else that we know of there. And he's used to be a developer. So he knows what he's talking about. He's got a lot of people inside Google, inside Samsung, inside a lot of these places. So he's got a lot of contacts also, but he also has an awful lot of knowledge. So he said with the Pixel 8 series, there is now a clear divide between Google's Android and Google Pixel. He published this almost a week ago. Usher in the era of the new Google. That's what he's calling it. So let's go to read a view, get rid of some of these ads. Every company that makes a smartphone should show us something that's better than last year's design in some way. It doesn't have to be drastically different, though if it seems too familiar, nobody is happy about it, but it should always be sufficiently new and improved when compared to older products. Google certainly did that with the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. The phones look a lot like last year's Pixel 7 series at first glance. Yes, they do look alike, but there are meaningful changes in key areas that are a step up from their predecessors. Better displays, better cameras, better battery life. These are all good things, but the biggest changes are in the software, and somewhere you can't see them. One of the web, that's an advertisement. I think the Tensor G3 is the best phone chip in the market right now, and I've heard a couple of other people say that in a couple of other videos. That doesn't mean it's faster or can play games better or that it won't overheat when you try to shoot video in the summer. The way the G3 is used and the specialized proprietary processor inside it, geared to handle Google's special AI and ML machine learning code, is a very big deal as far as Google is concerned. In the future, it's possible that this pairing of Google software with Google's hardware is also something that you'll never be able to have with any other phone. Simply put, if you want Google's apps and software to work best, you'll need to buy a Pixel phone. So kind of hinting that what Will has been saying for a long, long time. So I think they're actually taking the road that he has always said they should take. That's either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. It's good that Google can flex its software muscle and do cool things that otherwise may not be possible, at least for a while. Qualcomm, Samsung, and Apple are certainly capable of investing in the same types of AI that Google is using, as well as the hardware to pull it off. I think Apple isn't too far behind and expect big changes in iOS and the iPhone a few years from now. So it's still some ways off, I gather. Now, keep in mind, Jerry has friends, acquaintances that work in these places, so he probably knows stuff that we don't know, especially about what's coming. Generally, I think this is a bad thing, though, so he doesn't like it. Google is keeping secrets instead of sharing information, and it may make a better Pixel experience, but I'd really like to see what Qualcomm or Apple could do running Google's machine learning code on its own one-to-one version of Google's chip inside their own SoC. Things have been going in this direction for a while. Remember when Google pulled the Pixel launcher from the Play Store? Yeah, people got very upset about that. Android enthusiasts complained, but it was no different from any other phone manufacturer that has no desire to share its own unique experience. Yeah, that's what, 2-3 years ago. That was a while ago. This is different, though, and coming from Google is different. Google may not have started Android, but for all intents and purposes, the company is the face of Android, that's for sure. Hundreds of other companies and individuals help maintain and update the code itself, but Google has the control. Well, they own it. Google also has complete control over some of the most used apps on Android and iOS, like Gmail or Maps, and Google Search is on almost every smartphone outside of China. Google has a lot of power when it comes to the internet and mobile software, more than any other company. Yeah, when you think of it that way, I guess they do. This software is never going to stop working on all phones out there, even as new models come out from Samsung and Apple. Google wants this software to work and will provide new features to try and entice us to use it even more than we already do. Google makes money because we use its software. So you can see where he's going with this, that Google needs to walk that balance between letting people have enough stuff on Android so that everybody uses their software, but at the same time, keeping some stuff to themselves, I guess, via Pixel. Google can also make the very same software work best on its own phones, and I'm positive that isn't far off. Gmail, for example, works differently if you have a cool new foldable like the Galaxy Z Fold or a Pixel Fold. Gmail, now that I did not know. Gmail could also work differently if you have a phone with the preferred hardware to run certain machine learning models and software algorithms. It's easy to imagine better and more effective inbox filtering on a Pixel than you would have on a Galaxy. Okay. This is a big shift from the Google of old. People in this industry talk, even when they work for companies that make these products. Previously, Google was very cautious about doing anything that would create a rift between itself and all the vendors that made Android where it is today, yeah, especially Samsung. Very little was held back because Google needed to keep Samsung happy. That's true. And Samsung wouldn't be happy if a cool new Android thing didn't work on the next Galaxy phone. Very true. Now Google is building all these cool things, but calling them Pixel features, yeah, as they get more and more towards their own SoC. Features that will probably never come to a Galaxy phone or any other brand of phone. And it's building the hardware to make them even better and to unleash even cooler things in the future. Things that are Pixel features, things that will never be on a Galaxy phone. Maybe I'm wrong, and Google has plans to work out ways for other brands to take advantage of its huge lead in AI and ML. The company could easily work with partners or even Apple to do things like build incredibly complex camera AI into other phones. More realistically, I think Google just got tired of playing second fiddle and is now serious about building and selling a phone so different and so good that everyone who uses it wants to buy one, just what Will has been saying they need to do for years. So, very interesting article, and it sounds like Jerry thinks we can look more and more forward to Pixel separating itself from other brands of Android and other phones in general. So that's what it sounds like he thinks is going to happen. And I think Jerry would think that's a very good thing. So, Annette, hello. Glad you're here. Glad you got here nice and early. Brian, I'm not really that into the Pixel launcher. That stupid search bar should be removable. Now, see, that search bar doesn't bother me at all. I still have the Pixel 7. But yes, it does bother some people, and I've heard a number of people say so. Let's see. Gary's here. Welcome, Gary. Glad you're here again. No, Google. Keep all the good stuff to yourself. Gary's being Gary. But it kind of what Will has been saying. And I guess the difference is not all the good stuff, but Will's been saying all along, Google needs to keep some of this stuff just for the Pixels. And I guess that's where they're going, at least where Jerry thinks they're going. So Gary's saying hello to everybody. So Will has not come in, Ted has not come in, so I'm going to go on. Gary said, keep it all to yourself. Brian said, haha, that's not very Android-like, Gary. That's very true. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next story. I'll keep an eye out for Will or Ted. Share screen again. And on to the next story. So you guys pretty much all know that I have the Motorola Razr Plus, but this week the cheaper version came out, which they had promised us for a while. And you can, as I said in the beginning, you can see the difference: 3.6-inch screen, I think 1.5-inch screen. It's one of the big compromises. For $300 cheaper, you got to make compromises. So this was on Tom's Guide. I said the affordable Motorola Razr 2023 revealed. So Motorola Razr 2023 review, the low-cost foldable you've been waiting for. This $699 foldable phone is a great value despite some compromises. And I can tell you, you'll see it in the article, but right now, pretty much everywhere, it's $100 off. So you can get it for $600 right now rather than $700. I don't know how long that's going to be. So let's go into review, get rid of some of these ads. The Motorola Razr, oh, this was by Philip Michaels, and this was 2 days ago. The Motorola Razr 2023 costs $300 less than foldable flip phones like the Motorola Razr Plus and Galaxy Z Flip 5, and it's clear where Motorola cut corners to lower the price. But if you don't need a powerful processor or a large cover display, this is the first foldable phone to be a viable option for more budgets. And I think that's very true. That makes sense. Pros cost $300 less than the next cheapest foldable, long-lasting battery, excellent design, solid low-light photos. The cons, tiny cover display, older Snapdragon Gen 1 chip. The Motorola Razr 2023 has arrived to answer the demands of us who are intrigued by foldable phones. I guess you have to count me in that. But who don't want to pay an arm and a leg to secure one. In a world where $999 foldable used to be thought of as a relative bargain, compared to the other foldables, yeah. The new Razr rewrites the script by slashing hundreds of dollars off that price. And we knew this was coming because when they announced the Razr Plus, they also told us that this was coming. To achieve that lower cost, Motorola had to make some sacrifices. The biggest one involves the phone's exterior display, which shrinks down from the glorious 3.6-inch panel on the pricier Motorola Razr Plus, which I just showed you, to a more limited 1.5-inch strip. And let's take a quick look at that. Where was it? I did have, there it is. So that's 1.5 inches, much, much smaller. Okay. This cheaper razor uses a less powerful chipset too, and the storage and display refresh rate specs are stripped back from the Plus model. Is the lower price on a Motorola Razr worth it in exchange for the reduced cost of a foldable flip phone? Or are you giving up so much that any value is hopelessly squandered? That's what this Motorola Razr review aims to find out. So it gives you all the specs here. Starting price $700. Like I said, pretty much everywhere right now you can get it for $600. Okay, Snapdragon 7 Gen 1 CPU, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128. The cameras, they seem to think are okay, but he gets into that quite a bit when we get down further. The battery size, the battery is bigger than on the Plus, I believe. Okay, so price and availability. So it just became available. Price may well be the marquee feature of the Motorola Razr 2023, as it costs $699. That's a $300 discount from the Motorola Razr Plus. It also happens to be $300 less than the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, which at $999 is the cheapest device in Samsung's foldable arsenal. Motorola deserves some credit for beating Samsung to the punch on delivering a more affordable foldable. That's true, because Samsung likes to make the affordable phones too. There's one Motorola Razr model with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gig of storage. That's half the storage found in the Plus. The Motorola Razr goes on sale October 19th, yesterday, and you can buy it unlocked from Motorola, Amazon, or Best Buy, which are all offering $100 discounts off the regular price as of this writing. And I checked today, it's still $100 off. In addition to those retailers, you can pick up a Motorola Razr from T-Mobile, Metro by T-Mobile, AT&T, Xfinity Mobile, US Cellular, Boost Infinite. I didn't even know there was such a thing as Boost Infinite. Boost Mobile, Consumer Cellular, starting October 19th. I wasn't even sure some of these were still in business. Cricket will offer the phone too. I wonder why they separated out Cricket from this list. Okay, design. The Motorola Razr may be the lowest cost version of Motorola's fold and flip phone, but you'd have a hard time telling the difference between it and the more expensive Razr. You're right, it's true. If you weren't looking at the front, at the outside screen, you probably couldn't tell the difference. The two devices are the same height and width, though the cheaper model is fractionally thicker and weighs 0.1 grams more. We're talking about a rounding error's worth of difference. Yeah. The similarities don't stop there. The vegan leather material on the exterior of the Razr Plus makes its way to the Razr. Now, should point that out to you because I haven't taken the case off in a while, but if you guys remember, it's got this leather-like material on the bottom, so I gather the cheaper one also has it, and it feels great. I can tell you, this is by far still my prettiest phone. As does the Corning Gorilla Glass Victus display, so very good for $300 cheaper. Of those features, I'm most appreciative of the vegan leather, which gives the Motorola Razr a classy look, that's true, that disguises its mid-range price and feels good to grip when you're holding the phone. Yes, it's very easy to hold the phone even without a case. Even with the Gorilla Glass Victus, the Razr isn't indestructible. As with the Razr Plus, Motorola's phone has an IP52 rating, meaning it can repel water, but you sure don't want to drop your device in it. That said, the Razr feels solidly built enough to stand up to daily use. Some effort is needed to open up the phone, so Funny, it doesn't seem that difficult to open that. Of course, this is the Razor model, but he said it's hard to open with one hand, and maybe that's somewhat true. It's not something I could do one-handed. However, closing the phone can be done without too much effort, which is accompanied by a satisfying thwap as the two halves come together. I guess I should show you that that's also very true. So, plus, in good news, to those who hate gaps, the Razor shuts completely flat, as does the bigger brother. And he shows it right here. You can get the Motorola Razor in sage green, vanilla cream, summer lilac, or cherry blossom. The green of my Razor certainly looks striking, though it did tend to pick up dust and lint when stashed in my pocket. You're able to set up the Motorola Razor to unlock with a thumbprint. The sensor lives on the power button on the right side of the phone. Sensor readings were very accurate. That's what I found with this one. As I've never had an issue unlocking the Razor, but I found that button's location just north of the Razor's hinge to be hard to pin down sometimes, not me. As I would hit the down volume button by mistake. Well, yeah, that's true. Occasionally, I do hit the volume button as opposed to the thumbprint. So, yeah, that is true. That's likely something I get used to over time, though. Display. Like its more expensive sibling, the Motorola Razr unfolds to reveal a 6.9-inch polymer OLED panel, which gives you plenty of screen real estate for working with apps, playing games, and doing the kind of things on your phone that feel more restrictive on smaller displays. The big change here is the panel's refresh rate. It's scaled down to 144 hertz on the Motorola Razr versus 165 hertz on the Razr Plus. I don't think that's such a big deal, just my opinion, though. This downgrade really isn't much of a sacrifice, especially considering that there are more expensive phones out there that ask you to settle for 60 hertz. Looking at you, iPhone 15. Scrolling is perfectly smooth on the Razr's main screen, and I imagine games designed to take advantage of the faster refresh rates will look good too. The most significant change is the removal of the 3.6 panel on the outside of the Razr Plus. Instead, you get a 1.5-inch POLED strip that's big enough for notifications and not much else. So, yeah, just like the old Galaxy Flip 4 and 3 were, which I had before I had the Razr. You can use the 1.5-inch display as a makeshift viewfinder for those times when you want to use the more powerful exterior camera for a selfie. Yeah, but I found it hard to line myself for a well-positioned shot since you can't see your full face on the screen. I agree, that's going to be difficult with that phone. It's definitely a challenge when compared to a phone like the Galaxy Z Flip 5, which also adopted a larger exterior screen like the Razr Plus's panel. That's true. There's no comparing which flip phone makes it easier to snap selfies without ever opening up the device. No, there's no comparison there. You lose something else besides a better camera viewfinder with the switch to a 1.5-inch outer display. One of the big appeals of the Razr Plus was the ability to run apps on the exterior display, and that is very true. I am always like looking at videos just on this display. It's big enough that I can, especially when I'm working, I'm kind of sitting in the back of the van. I can do all kinds of things on this outer display because of the size of it. You're not going to be able to do that here. Saving you the hassle of having to open the phone to take care of a quick task. That's not an option with the regular Razr, though you can set up the outer screen to swipe between widgets, which you can with the original too, or the bigger one. For example, I have my Razr showing the local temperature and upcoming events. But you can see exactly what he's talking about here. Watching video on the Razr screen is a pleasure. That's on the inside screen. That makes sense. Though the 22.9 aspect ratio may be a little bit wider than what you're used to with videos on a more conventionally shaped phone. I certainly had a good time streaming the new Haunted Mansion movie on Disney Plus. The film uses a lot of dark lighting to set the mood with a bluish cast to show off the mansion's 999 ghosts, but the Razor did a solid job conveying the spookiness without losing visual details in the shadows. So opening it up, you're good to go. Our testing reflected my experience as we measured the Razor's main display, picking up 155.3% of the DCI-P3 color gamut. Boy, how they measure that. With its display set to saturated, essentially the same percentage as the Razr Plus's display. That's a higher percentage than the Galaxy Z Flip 5's 128.7% result in vivid mode. That's very close, I would have to think, though. Colors on the Galaxy Z Flip 5 are more accurate, though, giving the Delta E score of 0.08 for the Samsung phone. Meanwhile, the Motorola Razr points at a 0.32 result. Numbers closer to 0 represent more accurate colors, so this is better. Okay, and there's your specs for your Z Flip 5 Motorola Razr Plus. If I have a complaint about the Motorola Razr screen, it's that the display isn't as bright as the Galaxy Z Flip 5. With HDR brightness turned on, the Motorola Razr hit 1003 nits on our light meter. Pretty good for a $700 phone, but it's short of the 1126 nit reading we got from the Galaxy Z Flip 5 under similar conditions. Plus, without HDR brightness enabled, I found it best to turn off adaptive brightness and crank the display to its maximum brightness in order to see the Razr screen in bright sunlight. Interesting. Cameras. Now, I'm going to drop this out of reader view because it's got some nice comparisons in here that you don't see in reader view. Let's get down to cameras again. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, cameras. One area where Motorola didn't scale back with this new Razr involves the phone cameras. In fact, the Razr features a camera with a higher megapixel rating for its main shooter, 64 sensor compared to a 12 megapixel on the Razr Plus. Interesting. And yes, you can shoot the full 64 resolution if you want, though by default, pixel binning will produce a 16 megapixel shot. That makes sense. As with the Razr Plus, a 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera joins the main shooter on the exterior of the phone. And he's going to talk about these shots in a minute, and I'll show you them. You can understand why Motorola went with a higher resolution main camera on its less expensive phone. The audience for Razr flip phones are likely to live well-documented life with many photos uploaded to Instagram and other photo sharing sites. This is one area where Motorola has no incentive to skimp in an effort to keep the Razr's price down. It needs cameras that can hold their own against more expensive phones. That's smart. To find out just how well the Motorola Razr pulls that off, now we're going to see. I took the phone out for photo face-off with the Galaxy Z Flip 5. Cameras have not been a strong suit traditionally for Samsung's foldable flip phone, though the Z Flip 5 improved things considerably in that area. At any rate, as its two 12-megapixel rear cameras should give us an idea of how the Motorola Razr measures up. Okay, Razr on the left, Z Flip 5 on the right. And as he talks about it, we can go back and forth and see these in full. So there's the entire shot of the Motorola Razr. There's the entire shot of the Z Flip 5. So he's going to talk about these things, and I'll show you them as he talks about them. At first glance, the Motorola Razr does well in these dueling photos of a cheeseburger. The kimchi slathered on top of the burger is an appropriate shade of Dayglow orange on the Moto photo, and the patty itself looks rich and meaty. I would have said that the Razr photo closely matches what the Galaxy Z Flip 5 catches until I caught sight of the onion rings in the background. So here's the onion rings on the Moto, and there's the onion rings on the Z Flip 5. And you can see what he means. They're a little out of focus on the razor shot, whereas the Flip 5 keeps the entire scene looking sharp. So he's saying, let her focus here, show up here. So he does a good job here. Okay, next picture. Razor makes much of a show with a photo of a persimmon ripening on a tree in my yard. You could argue that the Z Flip 5 shot is better as it's captured more detail in the leaves. So Z Flip 5, okay, he's talking about the detail in the leaves here. And you can see the leaves here. So just trying to make sure you guys see exactly what he's talking about. It's also pumped up the green colors in the photos. That's what Galaxy phones do. A not uncommon issue with Samsung photo processing. But I prefer the solid orange color of the persimmon in the Moto Razr side. So he thinks the Razr orange is better. Yeah, I can see it is deeper, that's for sure. It doesn't have the slightly overexposed sheen on the upper right portion of the fruit that you see in the Flip 5. Yeah, okay, yeah, you can see the sheen he's talking about here. Everything just looks more balanced to me in the Razr image. Yeah, not many razors went out in this stuff. Here's his daughter. I'm split on this portrait shot I took of my daughter. On the one hand, I prefer the warmer skin tone in the Razr's photo, which you can easily see, okay? And I think the blur effect is pretty thorough, in which it is. Also, I'm impressed with how the photo recreates the texture of her shirt. Okay, so texture of her shirt, okay. However, the warm skin tone in Razr shot comes at the expense of details like her freckles, which remain visible in the Galaxy Z Flip 5's portrait. Yeah, I can just see her freckles, but of course I have 78-year-old eyes, so I can see what he put. Yeah, they do fade the freckles out here. Her eyes also look brighter in the Samsung shot as the Razr leaves some dark circles under her eyes. Yeah, that's for sure. You can see the dark circles there. Ultimately, the Galaxy Z Flip 5 takes the better portrait as there's more depth to its shot. In contrast, the Razr picture seems a little flat, but I do think Motorola's effort is at least in the same ballpark. Yeah, for a phone that's $300 cheaper, pretty good, I'd say. Okay, at night, the Motorola Razr takes the superior shots. Surprising. With this photo of some Halloween decorations showcasing the superiority of its night mode. Both shots are just about even, but the Razr wins out on color. So, yeah, you can see it's a little bit faded in the Flip 5. Okay, that makes sense. The skeleton and the deck chair look a lot like they do in real life. Samsung's phone has added a bluish tint to the scene. So I guess so. Okay. It's not a poor shot by any means, but the photo looks a little less accurate to my eye. Well, he was there, so he would know. Moving to the ultra-wide lens, the Motorola Razr has a hard time keeping up with the Flip 5. Samsung has once again pumped up the color, but here it serves the shot well. So Samsung pumped it up a little bit, but that's what Samsung always does. And you can see, yeah, it's much more washed out on the Razr side. The little amount of green remaining in the sun-scarred lawn pops in the sky is richer, a deeper shade of blue. That's for sure. Yeah, much deeper shade of blue. And the green in the grass is greener there. That's true. That helps the jet stand out in the Flip 5 shot in a way that it doesn't in the Razr's effort. Instead, the jet blends into the background and the entire photo looks pretty barren. Ultra-wide camera on the Motorola Razr can serve as a macro camera, and a use case I prefer to having a dedicated and usually subpar, I think he means subpar, macro lens. This close-up shot of a ripening fig is a mixed bag, slightly overexposed. Still, I think the blackish purple color of the fig that the Razr managed to capture and the texture of the fruit is very detailed. So he likes this shot from Razr. Now he's doing selfies. Open up the Moto Razr. Now this is from the inside camera. And you get a 32 megapixel selfie that can generally combine 4 pixels into one for an 8 megapixel photo. Can't pretend to be pleased with the Razr's f-date. It makes my skin look fairly sallow. So let's see. Yeah, I guess so. The Flip 5 injects some color into my face and the details of my beard are better. For one thing I say, he's doing more smiling on the Flip 5. It's almost as if he was anticipating. It's just funny. Of course, why settle for a selfie cam when the form factor of a foldable lets you take self-portrait using the more advanced main camera? With the Razr closed, all you have to do is flick your wrist and you can activate the outside camera. That's a Moto thing. Some satisfying haptic feedback to let you know the camera is launching. Pressing either volume key snaps a shot, and you can also trigger photos by tapping the exterior screen, enabling the phone's auto smile feature and raising your palm for the capture gesture. That's part of Moto Action. So again, I think he's much more pleased with the Z Flip 5 shot. Skin tone problem that appeared with the front camera also flares up when I shoot a self-portrait with the 64 megapixel main sensor. At any rate, picture is overly cool, especially when compared to the Z Flip 5 photo. Also shot with that main camera, which manages to inject some warmth into my skin, where you can see that. My green shirt is a little sharper in Samsung's photo also. That's true. I won't argue that the Motorola Razr camera is superior to the one in the Galaxy Z Flip 5. Really, only the night photos, which surprised me, and a few other shots taken with main camera top what Samsung's flip phones produce. But more crucially, in the photos where Samsung takes the better shots, I don't see $300 worth of difference, and that's the main thing. The Razr holds its own. If you're looking for a foldable phone on a budget, the fact that this camera phone is within shouting distance of a $1,000 phone, the device is not an insignificant one. All right, we're going to go back with performance. Still nobody here yet. Okay. Razr story is one of trade-offs, of course, and the chipset powering this is less expensive model is an example of that idea. Razr Plus ran on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 from Qualcomm's top-performing family of silicon. The standard Razr uses a Snapdragon 7 Gen 1. That's a less expensive chipset, sure, but it also packs less of a performance punch. You can see that in our benchmark testing. Geekbench 6, the Motorola Razr posts single and multi-core results, and you can see them here. 1053, 2052. Those are decent numbers, but they're short of Motorola Razr's 1817 and 4635. I guess that's from the Plus. It also trails the Z Flip 5 1857 and 5115, which runs on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 system on a chip, optimized for Samsung phones. So you can see the results here. Story is much the same on graphics test, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read all of that. In other words, the Motorola Razr is not the foldable to turn to if you need to run demanding apps. That said, the slower chipset doesn't translate into noticeable delays. That's good when jumping between apps or running games like PUBG Mobile or Mario Kart Tour. Both games perform well on my Motorola Razr without any lags or skips. That's very good to know. Battery life and charging. Foldable phones haven't always been paragons of long battery life. That's true, though that's beginning to change as phone makers figure out a way to keep larger screens and external panels powered up without an appreciable hit on battery life. I'm happy to report the Motorola Razr is very much a part of that trend. That's good. So he likes the battery life. Even better, we got that result while testing the Motorola Razr with refresh rate on the default adaptive 144 hertz setting. So let's see, we got that result. Okay. It turned in an impressive average of 10 hours and 48 minutes, so that's good. Impressive feat given the average smartphone usually has a much smaller display to keep powered up. So he's happy with the battery. Software. All right, he was happy with the software, I can say, overall. So I'm not going to go through all of that. His verdict. I'm not about to argue that the Razr is better than either the Razr Plus or the Galaxy Z Flip 5. Those devices are battling it out for the best foldable phone title and the generously sized external display on both flip phones is the big reason why. Without that feature, the standard Razr is a more limited device. But the Razr doesn't need to be better than those foldables. It just needs to pack enough value to not uh, give up an external display or a more powerful chipset if it means a foldable phone for 300 less. On that front, the Motorola Razr delivers. And you heard me hesitate because all of a sudden I was hearing a commercial here because I don't have it in read a view anymore. So let me finish this up and read a view before another commercial pops into my ears. Get down to the bottom. There we go. The cameras on the Motorola Razr, really, the chief draw of most smartphones these days, are close enough in photo quality to what more expensive foldable flip phones can produce. The cheaper Razr also lasts a good long while on a charge, and there's no noticeable trade-offs you have to make on design. This is a much better looking phone than its price tag would have you think. That's true. If a larger external display will help you get more out of your phone, you should find a way to pay the extra $300 for the Razr Plus. But if that feature doesn't matter to you, the Motorola Razr is an excellent alternative and hopefully first of many devices to drive down the cost of foldable phones. So I think he did a great job. Excellent article, was very thorough and very honest. So I just thought that was an overall terrific job that he did there. Let me see if there's anything. And okay, Brian said the form factor is nice. Brian says outer screen is nice on it. Yeah, that little screen is cute. Big House, glad you're here, brother. Hope you heard most of that with the cheaper Razr. He says he likes the sage color of that 2023. That's what that guy had. He says Boost Mobile has that new Moto Edge 2023. Wow, for $199. Wow, that's a very good price because I have the Moto Edge 2022, which I'm still using, and that's a really good price. A $60 plan. Interesting. Thanks, Big House. So let me put this case back on. Where's the plus? This case is very easy to put on because I can just snap it right on. It's no problem. Oops. Okay, no Will. So I guess we're not getting Will tonight, but I guess we're doing okay. So I'm going to go back to sharing screen for the next story. Yeah, we've only done 2 stories so far, so we're doing kind of okay. I told you the stories were pretty beefy tonight, so that's why I knew 5 was enough. I didn't want to go past that. Okay, now the big presentation this week. The OnePlus Open, I said foldable, just in case somebody didn't know, is here. This was on The Verge. And I pre-ordered mine today. And no, I could not afford the $1,700 phone. And that's one of the reasons that I absolutely knew I was not going to get the new Pixels, because I wanted to wait until the OnePlus Open came out and see what people were saying about it. Well, it seems like some of the biggies, MKBHD, some of the people I respect seem to really, really like the OnePlus Open. And it's only $100 less than the Samsung and Pixel, but they're saying very good things about the cameras. So I waited, and like I said, I couldn't afford the $1,700, but let's see, because it was a good way to get to the phone. Oh yeah, for that little Razr here. The Big House also said the OnePlus Open is gorgeous. Yes, everybody seems to like it. These guys who've been using it, most of them have been using it like 2 or 3 weeks. So Jaime Rivera liked it. MKBHD liked it. Oh, and Flossie seemed to love the thing. There was only one phone he liked better, one foldable, and that was one of the Chinese phones. Can't remember which one that we don't have in America. So though I said I couldn't afford it, for everybody, at least buying it on their website, and I think on Amazon too, they're taking $200 off right off the top if you pre-ordered. So that dropped it from 1,700 to 1,500, and then there were trade-ins, and it was my Project 13. He was saying what a great deal he got on his S23 Ultra, and he was happy about that. Now, if you guys know me, here's my S23 Ultra. Well, it's gone bye-bye because the only way I could afford to get the Open was to trade in this phone. And I think when my Project 13 said he got 600 and something or 600 for his, I got 700 for mine. So right off the bat, they knocked off $900 from me. That, okay, I can go for. I hate giving up my OnePlus, my S23 Ultra. And like my Project 13, I think that was his second time buying it. I could see myself buying this phone again because I absolutely love this phone. Best phone I've ever had. But I figured it was time for me to go for a big foldable, which I hadn't done. So just thought I'd let you guys know. Let me take a quick sip here. Yeah. Oh, thanks, because yes, it was the Oppo phone that Flossie liked better. But right after that, he absolutely loved the OnePlus. He liked it better than the Samsung. He liked it better than the Pixel. So, like, I have a lot of respect for his opinion, for MKBHD's opinion, so, and for Jaime Rivera's too, for that matter. So, I pre-ordered it, and hopefully we'll have it in a couple of weeks. So, just wanted to get that out. All right, The Verge, OnePlus Open review. Right size, wrong price. The OnePlus Open finds a happy medium between the Pixel Fold and Galaxy Z Fold size-wise. Everybody seems to agree to that. But it's too close in price to the incumbent foldables. Yes, if they hadn't knocked off so much money from me, there's no way I would have gotten that phone. So let's go into review. Get rid of some of these ads. OnePlus loves to tout. Yeah, you can see she's not happy with it. OnePlus loves to tout its no compromises tagline. In the case of its first foldable phone, a few more compromises would have been good. And I lost the name. Let me go back. Okay, Allison Johnson. Okay. So she was not happy overall with the price. The main problem is the price, $1,700. Is the OnePlus Open a phone that feels worthy of such a high price tag? And you're going to see her big complaints were the same complaints all the other guys had. In some ways, yes, the flat edges exude iPhone in all the right ways. It's thin for a foldable. Yeah, together it's very thin. But it's thinner, I gather, than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The flat edges iPhone right way is thin for a foldable without the chunkiness of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5. And when you open it up, the crease down the middle of the inner screen all but disappears. Yeah, they all love the fact that the crease is almost not there. It's a lovely object to hold and use. But the Galaxy Z Fold 5 and Google Pixel Fold are each just $100 more and are IP rated for full immersion water resistance. And yeah, this is what really aggravated her. They also include wireless charging, which OnePlus continues to treat as an optional feature on high-end phones. Yeah, everybody complained about those two things, especially the wireless charging. There's plenty to appreciate about the OnePlus Open's hardware. There's the handy alert slider. Everybody loves it. That's back, of course. And also the fact that the phone isn't shaped like a remote control. I think that's a shot at Samsung. It's a happy medium between the Galaxy Z Flip 5's portrait-first orientation and the Pixel Fold's landscape-first format. Yet everybody seems to agree about that, too. That's the right size in between those two. The OnePlus Open's outer screen measures 6.3 inches with a 20:9 aspect ratio, which is significantly wider than the Z Fold 5's 6.2-inch 23.1.9 cover screen. OnePlus calls it a 2K resolution screen. It's 2484 by 1116 specifically. And it's an LTPO panel with a 10 to 120 hertz variable refresh rate. Unfolded, the OnePlus Open matches the Pixel Fold's thickness of 5.8 millimeters through the vegan leather black variant of the Open, though the vegan leather black variant of the Open is 0.1 millimeter thicker. I got the black vegan leather one, not the green one. The camera bump on the Open is more of a mountain. Yeah, there are some complaints about the size of that camera bump. Let's see. Let's do a picture. Now I gotta go back out of read of view to let you see that picture again. Okay. A lot of people are complaining that this thing, I gather, is really huge, and some people really don't like it. So, just wanted to let you guys see that again since she's talking about it. Yeah, the camera bump on the Open is more of a mountain. It's a raised circle that occupies over a third of the back panel with 3 camera lenses and a subtle Hasselblad H for style. The OnePlus is making a lot of noise about its design. Yeah, I gather they're pretty proud of it, which is meant to catch the light like a CD. And there's a gap between the lenses and cover glass that's supposed to remind you of the face on a luxury watch, I guess. It certainly commands attention, but I found its best use is as a kind of pop socket to prop the phone on my finger when I was using it one-handed. She is not a fan of the size of that camera array. On the inside, the display measures 7.82 inches with a 2440 by 2268 resolution. That's a nice size. Almost square, obviously. It's an LTPO panel too with variable refresh rates from 120 hertz all the way down to 1 hertz. And OnePlus claims the screen can hit a peak brightness of 2800 nits. Yeah, and I think MKBHD said that makes it the brightest phone he's ever had. So good to know. In high brightness mode. That's incredibly bright considering most flagship phones top out around 2000 nits. I didn't know most flagship phones got that high. I saw it ramp up in direct sunlight, and I couldn't tell you if it went all the way up to the top of that range, but it did keep the screen readable even on a bright day. And I think Tech, one of the other guys said the same thing. He said he couldn't tell you if it hit that exact 2800 nits, but he said you could see that it got bright. It maintained that brightness. Now, this is interesting. It maintained that brightness longer than the Pixel 8 or iPhone 15 Pro, both of which tend to darken after a few minutes to prevent overheating. That I did not know. The wider format makes it feel less like a remote control. Yeah, I already read that. The green variant Open that I tested, that's the one that I didn't get, weighs 245 grams, and the black version is 239 grams. So the green version, I gather, is the heavier of the two, which is good. Yeah, and I think I remember that. They're both a bit lighter than the incumbents. The Z Fold 5 is 253 grams, and the Pixel weighs 283 grams. Pixel's chunky, that's for sure. The overall effect is a foldable that feels almost like a normal phone when it's closed. The lighter weight makes it more comfortable to hold for a long time than the Pixel Fold, and the wider format means the cover screen is more spacious than the Z Fold 5, which is the thing most people complain about with the Z Fold 5. Now, keep in mind, folks, this will be my very first large fold, so we'll see what I think of it. But I was kind of waiting for the right one and the right price, and with the discounts, I think I got it. The OnePlus managed a neat trick with that crease too. With the phone all the way open, it practically disappears unless you manage to catch a reflection at just the right angle. Yeah, and MKBHD and Flossie and all the other guys, they had to have the light hit it just right. Otherwise, you almost couldn't even see that crease. It's less pronounced when you run your finger over it than on the Pixel Fold or Galaxy Z Fold 5. Yeah, that surprised me, the fact that you could run your finger over it and still it was less, and you could feel it. I guess they could feel it was less. I've never found the crease on either of those devices to be bothersome, since they mostly disappear when you're looking at them straight on anyway. That makes sense because I have the same thing with the flips. But the crease does bother some people, and the OnePlus Open is proof that a nearly creaseless foldable is possible. Yeah, I think some of the Chinese phones have been good at that. And like Big House said, I think Flossie said that Oppo is good at that. The Oppo's hinge is a little less stiff than the alternatives, too. You'll need to open it about 45 degrees to get it to stay open. Anything less than that, and it snaps shut again. The same thing happens on the other extreme. After about 135 degrees, it flops all the way open. So in that middle, you can get it to open and stay. So, and they showed that, the ones that I saw. The Pixel and Galaxy foldables may be heavier and creasier. Now, there's a word, creasier, but they come with IPX8 ratings. Yeah, here's her other aggravation. The firmer hinges, the fact that this doesn't have a good rating for waterproof. The firmer hinges on the Pixel Fold and Z Fold 5 will hold the phone open at almost any angle between 0 and 180 degrees, which can come in handy, I'm sure. In use, I didn't have any problem with the Open's reduced flexibility. That's good to know. And it's nice not feeling like I have to pry it open every time I want to use the inner screen. OnePlus says the hinge has been, get this, tested to withstand 1 million folding cycles, which is a lot more than the 200,000 folds advertised by the Pixel Fold. Yeah, everybody else talks about 200,000 folds, but yeah, they went 5 times that. So let's hope it's as good as they say it is. There's a catch. The Pixel and Galaxy foldables may be heavier and creasier, but they come with IPX8 ratings, meaning they can withstand full immersion in water. That's not the case with the OnePlus Open. It's merely splash proof with an IPX4 rating. Now, of course, I've never stuck any phone in water in all the phones I've ever had, so not a problem. Although I have ruined the phone because of getting stuck in soaking rain on a motorcycle on an 83-mile ride home from work, but that was living in Orlando. So on top of that, long-term durability is a concern with any folding phone. The technology is still relatively new, and it's hard to say exactly how well they'll hold up in the long run. Samsung and Google foldables have certainly experienced their share of problems, even with full water resistance. Not to mention that it's a little unsettling to run around with a $1,700, I guess, phone that could meet an untimely end if it ever fell into a puddle or toilet bowl. And I guess before I continue, I should probably let you know that when I did ruin that phone by getting it soaked on my motorcycle, I was a programming contractor on the Space Coast, and I was working on the FBI database that the FBI uses right now for criminals. I worked on that back in 1999 for about a year and a half. And my trip to work every day was 83 miles out, 83 miles back. And when I got my motorcycle, I was taking that back and forth every single day. But me being me, I love. But of course, in Florida, you're going to get that occasional poured down rain. And the day I ruined that phone, this was before the iPhone. So this is before smartphones really. And it was the only phone I ever ruined in the rain. But when I got home that day, my socks were soaking wet, my underwear was soaking wet. So why shouldn't my phone have been soaking wet? So it made sense. So just wanted to explain that. So back to the article. For what it's worth, I haven't encountered any serious problems in the last week that I've been using the phone and haven't been overly cautious with it. The phone stands up to a little rain just fine, and I haven't seen any sign of dust good intrusion causing any problems with the display or hinge. OnePlus has included some measures to reduce the chances of disaster. Yeah, this I thought was interesting. Somebody pointed this out. I think it was Flossie. Like drainage holes in the hinge so the water can exit quickly. Now, I think that's pretty cool if it works right, which I guess it must. Some internal components include a dispersive water-resistant treatment too. Good. There's a case included in the box, which is nice, but it's a flimsy sort of frame for the front panel and cover for the back panel, so I wouldn't trust it to provide any additional protection. So if it provides a little bit, I'll be happy. And we'll see who else makes cases for this thing. The OnePlus Open does the more pedestrian phone stuff well, too. It comes with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset and a hefty 16 gigabytes of RAM for speedy daily performance and easy handling of processor-intensive tasks. The 8 Gen 2 seems to run cooler than either of the 8 Gen 1 models and manages battery life well. No problem in getting through the full day of use by the Open by a comfortable margin, a day that comprised 4 hours of screen-on time, including about 45 minutes of Pocket City 2, only drained the battery down to 38%. So, yeah, when I saw 4 hours, I'm like, well, that's not very much screen time, but only at the 38%. So I guess you probably could go 6 hours, I'm guessing. By the end of the day, I spent my time with the Open's always on display, enabled full time, which didn't come with any serious battery life penalties. Pardon me. A phone at this price really should include convenient features like wireless charging. Yeah, she's still upset about that. Fast wireless charging is still very much OnePlus's deal. Fast wired charging is still very much OnePlus's deal. And the Open supports 67 watts charging with the included cable and charging. But yeah, was it Flossie? Somebody I was watching. No, I think it was Tech Odyssey. He said he had to charge it. No, it was Flossie. He said he had to charge it. And in 40 minutes, it went from like 10% up to 100%. So that was good. You'll still get fast charging if you swap out the proprietary cable or brick, but you'll need both to reach the full 67 watts. You get a full charge in well under an hour. Yeah, that's got to be true, which means you can skip the charging overnight and power up while you go about your morning routine if you want. That's what I'll probably do. But wireless charging is conspicuously missing from the Open spec sheet, and that is a real bummer. Both the Z Fold 5 and Pixel Fold include wireless charging, as does virtually every other phone sold in 2023 that costs more than $700. And I had to stop and think about that, but I think she's right. I think every phone that I have from this year that's over $700 does charge wirelessly. Some people would be perfectly happy with fast wired charging, but a phone at this price really should include convenience features like wireless charging. The OnePlus Open runs Oxygen OS 13.2, which the company says it will support with 4 years of OS upgrades for the Open and 5 years of security updates. That's a welcome improvement on its policy of previous years, and it matches Samsung's commitment to the Z Fold 5. This iteration of Oxygen OS comes with some thoughtful multitasking features to make use of the large inner screen. You can open 2 apps in split view as you'd expect, but you can also add a third app that sort of hovers on the side of the display. I'm going to have to learn all this stuff. So it's partially visible, and you can quickly tab over to it quickly. App pairs and trios can be saved as home screen shortcuts. And I'm pretty sure somebody said you could have 4 apps, but I've watched so many reviews of it, I can't remember who it was. It's not quite as flexible as Samsung's 4-app multitasking, but it's better than the split screen or nothing that the Pixel Fold offers. There's a taskbar that you can display and hide easily, and it includes recent apps as well as a folder of recent documents. That's good. There's also support for floating windows. That's very good. Oh, yeah. Somebody was happy about that, showing that you can position any way you want. I think that was Tech Odyssey, which you can position anywhere on the screen, resize to your taste, and minimize to a tab at the side of the screen so you can easily fetch them again. That's good to know. It's better than the split screen or nothing that the Pixel Fold offers. By default, when you open an app on the inner display, it will expand to fill a whole screen. That's good. Opening a second app in the split screen view doesn't automatically resize the first app to display on half the screen, though. The first app is kind of scoots over and your view is cut off. But I think she says you can set that in the settings. You can work around this in settings by dictating how each individual app should display on the main screen, 16.9, 4.3, or full screen. Switching to 16.9 makes room for another app on the unoccupied portion of the screen without cutting off the first one. That's what I'll do, I think. It's a little inelegant, and I prefer the way Galaxy Z Fold 5 resizes apps as you go to fit everything in one view. H is for Hasselblad. Maybe it's because I just switched from a Pixel phone, but the thing I'm appreciating the most about the OnePlus Open's camera system is its color rendering. Well, Hasselblad's supposed to do that. The hardware is respectable, including a stabilized 48 megapixel main camera, 64 megapixel 3x telephoto with optical image stabilization, and a 48 megapixel ultra wide. It all comes with Hasselblad branding, and according to the two companies, Hasselblad's influence on the camera's color science, and it really is nice. Yeah, they're all kind of saying very good things about the cameras. It's not afraid to embrace warm tones and handles mixed lighting better than most phone cameras. It has a great camera system for static scenes, but I wish it handled moving subjects better. Yeah, it sounds like moving subjects is a real problem. The camera tends to use too slow shutter speeds in moderate and dim light, so you end up with a lot of photos where your subject looks soft. Forget trying to get a low light shot of a moving subject. But I'm not the big tennis fan I used to be. Portrait cutouts are usually convincing with the stray error here and there. The telephoto lens offers a 6x lossless crop zoom mode, which is, again, just fine if your subject isn't moving but struggles with motion. Okay. I took some pictures from the stands at an NHL game. I can see where you wouldn't keep up with hockey players, and it couldn't manage a sharp shot of any of the players as they took to the ice, even though they were illuminated with bright white spotlight. Yeah, I can understand. Eleanor and I used to go to a lot of hockey games in Orlando when they had a team. And I can say it would be hard to keep up if it doesn't take moving shots well. One of my shots has some unusual artifacts where it looks like the system tried to piece together the moving subject from multiple frames and couldn't quite get it right. So I got to watch for that. There's a standard 32 megapixel selfie cam on the front screen and the 20 megapixel camera on the inner display, mainly for video calls. I'll be comparing those two. The camera is tucked into the corner of the display, which I much prefer over the under-display camera on the Z Fold 5. The only problem is you can lose track of where it is. Hopefully, it's illuminated by a flashing ring for a moment when you turn the camera on so you know where to look. Video recording with the main camera tops out at 4K 30 and 60, but you'll need to drop down to 1080p to use the more robust stabilization mode, which that happens with other cameras too, which does a good job of smoothing out jerky motion from walking. The front-facing camera on the cover screen records up to 4K video, but there's a bit of a wobble whenever you move the camera slightly. Yeah, 4K will do that if it's not stabilized well. Like the electronic image stabilization is fighting back against the movement. That's not something I noticed with the main camera, and if you're going to record selfie video, your best bet is to unfold the phone and use the rear camera with the image preview on the cover screen. One of the best tricks a folding phone can do. That's true. Same with a flip phone. Okay, finishing up, I guess. The OnePlus Open gets a lot right, but it's hard to recommend with an extra 100 who will get you a better water resistance, wireless charging. Boy, she's really upset about that. And in the case of Z Fold 5, a more mature foldable software experience. The Open stands to make OnePlus fans who have been hoping for a folding phone quite happy. Hopefully that's me. At least those who are sticking around in the company's Oppofied era. You don't have to be a card-carrying Red Cable Club member, I already am, to appreciate the device's shape either. It splits the difference between the long and skinny Z Fold 5 and wider Pixel Fold and comes up with something better than either. Yeah, seems like everybody agrees with that. It's lighter and it feels more natural to use as a regular smartphone when it's closed. And everybody says that too. When it's closed, it's just like a regular smartphone, and you can't say that about the others. It's all supported by a solid performance, high-quality screens, and a nice camera system. But at $1,700, when the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5 is right there for $1,800, that's tough. Yeah, that's why I'm glad I got $900 off. Why not just make the phone's MSRP $1,500? I agree, because, yeah, she's going to make a very good point here. OnePlus will be quick to tell you that the $1,700 price tag can be offset by trading in any phone, and they mean any phone, for a quick $200 discount. And even on the website, it tells you they're going to give you, no, not on the website, on the email that I got today, one of the emails I got from OnePlus, it said that $200 discount for any phone will always be there. It's not just a current offer. So, yeah, so I agree with that. They should have made it $1,500 then. That's not an introductory deal either. The company says we'll offer this kit down throughout the life of the phone. That's nice and all, but why not just make the phone MSRP $1,500? I agree. It seems like a silly thing to do. I guess psychologically they want you to appreciate the fact that they're giving you $200 off. Something I can think of. It's not as if OnePlus's competitors are shy about offering promotional pricing. Samsung certainly isn't. At the time of this writing, Samsung is offering $300 off the Galaxy Z Fold 5 if you trade in an old phone, even one that's cracked. Didn't know that. I think the best thing the OnePlus Open can do is push Samsung and Google to more aggressive innovation on their phones. We don't need to imagine what a foldable might look like if it occupied the middle ground between the Galaxy and Pixel foldable designs. It's right here, and it's great. Glad to hear you say that. The price gap between the Open and competition isn't much, but it's something at least. If nothing else, it puts pressure on Samsung and Google to convince us the next time around that their devices are definitely worth the extra money. I'm guessing they're going to have to come down a little. They are right now, but I'm beginning to see where OnePlus could really open up some new possibilities in the market. Okay, I've already seen articles and maybe a video or two that I haven't seen the video of yet with titles saying the OnePlus Open is the best foldable so far. So some people are already thinking that, saying that. So just wanted to get that out to you guys. So I know that was a long article, but I want to get through it, especially since I pre-ordered it. And for those who didn't hear me, oh, Miss Lisa's in here. Glad you're here. Oh, it's been a long time since we saw you. Glad to see you. Yeah, Big House says, I'll take the 80-watt charging over wireless, Andy. Actually, I would too. Yeah, Big House said the same. Is it creasier? Yeah, that's a new one on me. For anybody who didn't hear, yes, I pre-ordered the OnePlus Open today, and I couldn't afford that $1,700. But for whoever missed it, they give you that $200 off, and I am trading in my beloved, and I mean beloved, best phone I've ever had in my life, S23 Ultra. It hurts me to do that, but it's the only way I could do it. So between this and the $200 off, I'm getting a $900 discount. I couldn't turn that back. And don't be surprised if you see me buy the S23 Ultra in the next 6 months again, because that's with my Project 13. I think he was on his second one, and he used his for a trade-in. Okay. Hey, Miss Lisa. Let's see. Oh, Big Gun said wet underwear is where I draw. Listen, I have been on my bicycle twice where I got so soaked that I got soaked to my socks and underwear, where you had to wring them all out. And that's happened to me on my motorcycle at least 3 times since 2000, when I first got my motorcycle again after 30 some years of not having one. I still ride my motorcycle, but up until the time we moved to Tennessee in 2007, I would take 2, 3, 400 mile rides, even a couple of 500-mile rides in a day. I don't take those kind of rides anymore. Now, since we moved to Tennessee, I will take an all-day ride here and there, but not where I'm probably going to get soaked and get caught out in the rain. I've been in a hailstorm too on a motorcycle. That is no fun at all, and it hurts if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt. So, Don, that's all right. The fact that you're here, very happy. So, just wanted to let you guys know that I pre-ordered the OnePlus Open, and I'm getting a $900 discount. So, Mike, I got the OnePlus Open. I guess I'll have it in a couple of weeks. Will got his new phone, I guess Pixel 8 Pro today. I think I was the first person that he texted. I was very honored. He said he was going to try to get on tonight, but he didn't quite make it. So glad you're here, though. He's taking a break from his DoorDash, I'm sure, because to make that money. Say, yeah, that's how he's paying for these phones all of a sudden that he's getting all the time. Okay. All right, so Will didn't make it, but I'm going to go through the last couple of stories that I have. This story is remember I said I was trying to find a story or two that you might not have seen everywhere? This is one of them. Seems like businesses and towns in different parts of the world are sick to death of influencers. So, let's share screen again. So I just said influencers are not welcome. This was on Mashable. And this is from how many days ago? 14. So this is almost a week old. Yeah. I just thought it was such an interesting article. Why are cafes, restaurants, and even towns banning influencers? From a picturesque town to a Brooklyn cafe, popular destinations are closing their doors to influencers. These people, I can see where they'd become a pain in the butt with their tripods. So let's go into read a view. This is by Mira Navlaka. Oh, yeah, Navlaka. I made sure I could pronounce that last name yesterday. Nowadays, it seems like every place worth frequenting, who decides if it's worth frequenting, is deemed that way by influencers. Oh, they do. Lifestyle TikTokers and Instagram foodies. I didn't know Instagram foodies were a thing. I guess you could count me as one of them, since I tend to show you what I'm eating every Saturday night when I go out with Elmar. Inform the world of which restaurants to choose, the pop-ups currently open, and where to eat when traveling. But some spots are closing their doors on influencers, raising questions. Take Dae, a design shop and cafe in Brooklyn. As reported by Curbed, the space was inundated by influencers carrying tripods to the point where the owners decided to ban them entirely. I wish I could see this stuff in New York, because it's been, I don't know, 35, 40 years since I worked in New York, and I worked there for years, but none of this stuff was happening in those days. The issue was addressed on the cafe's Instagram account, permitting visitors to take quick snaps at their own tables, but firmly adding their new in-store no photos and videos policy. We love food and drink photos, clearly, but the TikToks and Instagram photo shoots have gotten a bit out of control for us. Makes me wonder who is enforcing these rules. I'm betting nobody, because in today's environment, I don't think you could get physical with these people and throw them out. I wonder, though. Just weeks earlier, now get this, a Vermont town came under the spotlight for invoking similar rules. Yeah, this is the time of year when Vermont would do this. Known for its picturesque autumn landscape, Pomfret closed its most visited and photographed spots to influencers and tourists. That's surprising. The town's board voted to shutter these areas between September 23rd and October 15th. So I guess you could probably visit them now then, citing significant safety, environmental, aesthetic, and quality of life issues. And you could see where too many influencers could make it unsafe for everybody. In July, some residents of the town created a public GoFundMe page to save Cloudland Road, a bucolic strip of land that serves as a popular backdrop for fall-focused social media content. The fundraiser's organizers allege that determined visitors intent on capturing perfect photograph have changed the neighborhood landscape to the point that it's untenable. I mean, look how pretty that is. That's this month. And this is at the Die in Brooklyn. Both were spots highly recorded and featured on social media. These are just two more recent incidents of this nature. In January 2018, a hotel in Ireland banned all bloggers after an influencer asked the owner for a free stay in exchange for content. Oh, yeah, I'll give you exposure if you give me a free stay. I don't think so. In February 2020, a cafe in Taiwan strictly banned influencers, frustrated by Instagrammers going to great lengths to obtain their perfect shot within the store. For some, banning content creators in 2023 seems like an interesting choice. It's hard to look past the rise of influencer marketing and the subsequent reliance on influencers for promotion. Yeah, you've got to balance that. That reliance comes from both businesses wanting to promote products and places and consumers seeking suggestions from internet voices they trust. One reason for such bans is simply logistical. Viral videos may be conducive to growth, but oftentimes the subjects of these videos aren't prepared for a surge in popularity. Dr. Marcus Collins, marketing professor at the University of Michigan, says that some restaurants and local attractions can't handle the new demand and do not hold the infrastructure, I can understand that, for it, therefore feeling a physical strain. Sarah Bloxage, a marketing director, agrees. The reality is that some businesses just aren't suited for the influx of people an influencer can attract. Makes sense. Which can wind up hurting the business more than helping it. Sure, and it can get dangerous. The reality is that some businesses just aren't suited for the influx of people and which can wind up hurting business more than helping it. But it seems the era of being disillusioned by some influences and their choices has also dawned. Earlier this year, de-influencing, I never heard of that one before this, became a craze, somewhat ironically. Over the summer, TikTokers expressed outrage at the influx of microtrends that not only have a ridiculously short lifespan, but also lack of meaning. A growing faction of the internet seems fatigued by influencing, especially when it entails a constant barrage of capitalist content or lack of self-awareness. I think the last part is the big deal. The same concept can be applied to the leisure industry. Sam Shaw, strategy director at consumer insights firm Canvas 8, says that some influencers are perceived as having a superficial relationship with the places they visit. Really? Who would have thought that? Most places want sustainable customer bases, not just swarms of people who are there for the gram and then on to the next place. That sure makes sense. This is an extension of the earlier banning of phones and taking pictures in certain restaurants and clubs in order to protect the presence of the experience for those who are there for the substance. Most places want sustainable customer bases, not just swarms of people who are there for the gram and then on to the next place. It's true that no camera rules are not a new phenomenon. As early as 2013, major restaurants began to enforce stricter regulations for those intent on documenting meals. The New York Times described those donors as the legions of amateur iPhone-wielding food lovers. Is that what I am? Who say what they do is a tribute, not to mention free advertising for the restaurants. It never occurred to me to ask these people to pay me for taking pictures on Saturdays. Over a decade later, the act of taking food pics has evolved into full-fledged careers for many. Hey, I can make a career out of this. While this has revolutionized the hospitality and F&B industries to some extent, there's another side to be considered. As Day's recent move illustrates, some spaces don't feel that they require social media promotion from others to boost their own sales. Yeah, they probably have enough business. Joe Harrison, owner of a digital PR and SEO agency, said that sometimes influencers are greatly misguided in the value they bring to brands. Yeah, they think they're more important than they are. Sure, Kim Kardashian can help a brand sell products. It wouldn't help with me. I'd go the other way. But the overwhelming majority of micro-influencers bring little value, says Harrison. He adds that there's a recent trend of influencers feeling a sense of misplaced ownership over both private and public spaces. Also, sometimes demanding free goods in exchange for content, as noticed in the B&B in Dublin. Baruch Lubinsky, founder of a digital marketing company, concurs, saying that private businesses have grown tired of influencers because many go to cafes, venues, and even businesses like boat rentals to get items or services for free in exchange for a mention. This may not be a consensus, and let's face it, influencers aren't going anywhere, but there is a tangible backlash, good, around algorithms and their ruling power. As Shaw says, many are asking for a return for protecting offline experiences. Banning or limiting influencers seems like a way to offer this, even if the brands and businesses doing so have Instagram pages of their own. So I just thought that was a really, really interesting article. Stop screen for a minute. Yeah, Gary. Yeah, I'll be sending this in by the 10th of next month. That's when I have to have it in by. So this weekend, I need to do a photo and video comparison between the S23 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So I'm going to try to get that done this weekend. And then hopefully when the OnePlus Open gets here, I'll have enough time to do some kind of comparison between the S23 Ultra and the OnePlus Open before I mail this one out. But yeah, it broke my heart to get rid of it because that was my favorite. It was my favorite phone ever. So, Big House. I wish OnePlus would offer multiple trade-ins. Like, yeah, I would agree. If they would allow me to offer multiple cheaper phones, I would have offered them 5 or 6 cheaper phones, including an A54. And I would have kept my S23 Ultra. But I would be very surprised if I didn't end up getting another one discount or a used one or, down the line in a few months because I just love this phone. Let's see. Leafs gone in October in Vermont and 20 inches of snow by Christmas. Yeah, well, that's the trouble with Vermont. Now, of course, I was raised in Jersey, and I've driven through Vermont once, ever in my life. So I've never stopped. I've always wanted to, but never got around to it. All right, I've got no Will and no Ted. I've got one more story left today. Another one of those stories. I just thought it was kind of interesting. So I'm going to share screen once more. And this was just informational. I just said no more first-gen products thanks to the Picture Watch 2. And you'll see what I mean. This was on Android Central also. And this was written by Derek Lee, who writes some really good articles for them also. The Pixel Watch 2 convinced me never to buy a first-gen product. This is a guy who did. And we probably have Qualcomm to thank. So, read a review. And this is from 3 days ago. In my line of work, and he works for Android Central, I often hear people say that they won't buy a first-generation product from a company, and I would usually roll my eyes at that kind of statement. After all, I love the idea of getting to try out the latest tech. However, with the launch of the Pixel Watch 2, I can't help but feel that this is exactly what the first Pixel Watch should have been. Now, keep in mind, folks, I didn't buy the Pixel Watch 2, but I have the original Pixel Watch. And it also makes a good point about why you should think twice before buying a first-gen product. And I've said all along, of the 4 watches that I have, the Apple Watch SE, the TicWatch Pro 5, and the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, the Pixel Watch is the weaker of all 4 of those. It's okay, but it's not as good as those. So he's probably right about the first gen. Google's first smartwatch was a long time coming, and despite its gorgeous design and decent performance, there were still many ways the original Pixel Watch fell below expectations, such as the sub-power battery life. I haven't had that issue, but I only wear mine every 4 days. So, and the limited Fitbit experience, which that's true. It did. They just made it a little bit better a couple of weeks ago. With the Pixel, when the Pixel Watch 2 came out, they upgraded the one also, and it's got more Fitbit stuff built into it now. With the Pixel Watch 2, Google has taken much of what we loved about the first smartwatch while addressing many of its shortcomings, making it a much more capable device. It brings a powerful new Qualcomm chipset, upgraded sensors, improved battery life, and more mature software, positioning the Pixel Watch 2 as a more refined version of its predecessor and exactly what we should have gotten from the get-go. A big part of this is the new chipset. This is interesting. Google used the Snapdragon W5 Gen 1, so they went back to Qualcomm, which is a Qualcomm chip that launched in 2022 and is only found on a handful of smartwatches at the moment. It's a surprising departure from the Samsung Exynos chip used in the first Pixel Watch, although not too surprising considering that it was a 4-year-old chipset, and everybody made a big deal about that being such an old chipset when the Pixel Watch first came out. We naturally expected Google to go with the more up-to-date Exynos W920 or the newer W930, both of which offer great performance on Samsung's Galaxy Watch lineup. That's why moving the Pixel Watch 2 to a Snapdragon chip is actually a pretty big deal. What this tells me is that despite leaving Qualcomm in the proverbial dust when developing Tensor, Google seems to have faith in the company's latest wearable chip. Remember, Qualcomm's chips haven't exactly fared well for Wear OS smartwatches in the past. That's very true, offering so-so performance that was seemingly leagues behind what Samsung and Apple were doing with their smartwatches. That was true for a long time. However, the new Snapdragon W5 Gen 1 is no slouch, and Android Central's Andrew Myrick was quite impressed with the platform's performance on the Mobvoi TicWatch Pro 5, which I also have. A sentiment he shares with I guess it means Pixel Watch 2. That's why it was a bit of a slap in the face for the original Pixel Watch not to feature Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon chip, despite launching in the same year. Yeah, my guess that they already had it planned before the new chip from Qualcomm came out. I wrote last year about how I was excited about what the W5 Gen 1 could do for the Wear OS platform. He didn't get it, offering what could be a truly next-gen experience for smartwatches. This is actually a big reason why I feel much more inclined to purchase the Pixel Watch 2 than I was with the original model. The first Pixel Watch wasn't a bad smartwatch, no it's not, and no doubt a tempting buy for many, but it felt held back, like Google wasn't quite ready to give us a consistent experience that perfectly married its Pixel and Fitbit efforts together. Well, that's true. Subsequent updates attempted to remedy this a little by little, but the Pixel Watch 2 feels like a much more complete smartwatch that can actually compete against the best Android smartwatches, particularly those from Samsung, a company with tons of experience making smartwatches. Yeah, and my Apple Watch is my second favorite, and my Samsung Watch is my favorite. That's true. Now, of course, because of my exercise, that's mainly what I use them for. A likely scenario is that switching to Qualcomm was the plan all along. After all, the original Pixel Watch apparently took several years to develop. Yeah, it did take a while. And it seems likely Google was stuck with an aging chip on the first Pixel Watch, as it offered the best performance at the time without having to potentially delay the watch to upgrade to a new chip or completely switch platforms. I agree. That's probably exactly what happened. The way I see it, the first Pixel Watch was the perfect test product to see what worked and what didn't. Okay, so I was the guinea pig. These could be the reason why the watch wasn't available in more countries, whereas the Pixel Watch 2 was seeing expanded availability in regions like India, Singapore, and more. The US, for example, is a huge market for wearables and Pixel phones, as we've seen in recent years. Bringing the first-gen Pixel Watch to an area where consumers may be more willing to spend the money on one is an ideal place to test the waters. This is particularly true when you think about Google's fan base. People love Pixels because you'll often get the latest software features before anyone else, along with Pixel-exclusive features you won't find anywhere else. Pixel phones are the perfect early adopter devices, but the Pixel Watch and even the Pixel Fold take that to another level by offering that on a hardware level. While other companies are on the fourth and fifth generation of smartwatches or foldables, Google has been biding its time as anticipation builds for its first foray into other hardware. We waited for years for a Pixel Watch to launch after it was first rumored back in 2016. Yeah, we waited a long time. And now that Pixel smartphones are more popular than ever, having a smartwatch to pair with it only seems natural. After all, this could be the Apple Watch of Wear OS, but Google still needs to go through a trial and error phase, something other companies have already experienced with their smartwatches and foldables. Very true. Still, there are plenty of people out there willing to spend the money to get their hands on a first-gen product just because the thought of it excited them, or bragging rights, or whatever floats their boat. Yeah, I'll never buy it for bragging rights. And that's who the original Pixel Watch was really for. I didn't buy it for bragging rights. With the Pixel Watch 2, Google seems much more confident with its product. Not only does the new chip help enable longer battery life, but Google upgraded the sensors for better accuracy while adding a skin temperature sensor and CDOT sensor for monitoring stress. With this comes a revamped Fitbit experience that should have been available from the start, bringing the Pixel Watch 2 more in line with advanced health experience you'd expect from a Fitbit smartwatch like the Fitbit Sense 2. And I must say, since they upgraded with the Fitbit, even the original is a lot better. At least the reporting seems better to me. That's not to say devices don't always improve with each generation, but there's a difference between iterative upgrades and more substantial ones. The Pixel Watch 2 feels very much like the Galaxy S23, and that's what we should have had gotten from the previous model, but for some reason didn't. The difference is that Google is a newcomer to the smartwatch space, so it still has to prove itself, and so far it's showing that it can do just that. Good. The hope is that with Google's newfound confidence in Qualcomm, the company will start to give Snapdragon chips more attention. A problem with previous generations is that Wear OS watches like the Fossil Gen 6 and others had to wait much longer for Google Assistant support, long after the updated version rolled out on Exynos-based smartwatches. Now that Google is embracing Qualcomm, this selective approach to software releases may be a thing of the past. We can only hope. We just have to wait for more smartwatches to adopt the new W5 chipset so Wear OS and the Pixel Watch by extension can really shine. So I just thought that was an interesting good article, and he makes some pretty good points, especially about the Pixel Watch 1 and 2. So let me stop screen and put all my stories back to, let's see. Okay, nothing new in the comments. Sorry we did not get Will this week. As far as I know, he's got a brand new, just got it today, Pixel 8 Pro. So I'm hoping that at least by next week, he'll be on with us and be able to tell us about it. And then, of course, will at least have had a week with the phone. So thanks to everybody for coming by. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all of you guys. And I hope everybody has a very blessed weekend. And I'll be back next week. And hopefully Will and or Ted will be with me. So you guys have a very blessed weekend. And let's always remember we all do better when we love each other. So on to our normal.